destination. Why rush toward the end when you can savor every moment before getting there? There's a lesson here that few men understand. A slow pace doesn't mean a lack of passion, quite the opposite, in fact. It's a sign of control, of confidence, of knowing that what matters isn't just what happens at the climax, but in every touch, every whisper, every glance exchanged along the way. When a woman feels there's no rush, that the time is hers to enjoy, her body and mind relax, allowing her to fully give herself to the moment. And in that surrender, magic happens. If you're wondering how to put this into practice, I suggest something very simple. The next time you're with your partner, try breathing in sync with her. Take a moment to stop and simply match your breathing to hers. You'll notice how both of you start to synchronize naturally. From there, everything else will flow more smoothly. Another exercise that can completely change the dynamic is mindful touch. Instead of rushing to the most familiar areas, explore slowly. Touch with curiosity, as if every part of her skin is uncharted territory, with no expectations. You'll see how every gesture, no matter how small, begins to take on a much more intimate dimension. In the end, what matters isn't speed or intensity, but shared rhythm. Intimacy isn't a mechanical act, but a dance, a wordless conversation where both must be willing to listen and respond. So dear, next time you're with her, remember, there's no rush. Enjoy the moment, feel the rhythm, and let the connection flow without urgency. Because it is in that patience where true complicity is born. Number 4. Vulnerability as seduction. Vulnerability is a subject few dare to talk about, and even fewer dare to practice. We've been taught, especially men, that showing weakness is something to be avoided. But dear, if there's one thing a mature woman truly values, it's the ability of a man to reveal himself as he truly is, without masks or armor. True seduction isn't about projecting an image of perfection. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to open up, to be real. A few years ago, a close friend shared a pivotal moment in his marriage. He'd been married for over 15 years, and although everything seemed fine, he felt something was missing. His wife, an incredibly perceptive woman, felt it too. One night during a late conversation, she said something that left him stunned. "I feel like you never show me what you really feel. You only let me see the strong part, the one that always has the answers, but never the part that doubts, that's afraid, that's uncertain." In an attempt to protect her, he had always avoided talking about his fears and worries. He thought his role was to be the firm pillar, the one who always had everything under control. But that night, something changed. My friend decided to open up. He told his wife about his insecurities, his fears, even those moments when he didn't have the answers. To his surprise, instead of pushing her away, his vulnerability brought them much closer together. He confessed to me that he had never felt such closeness with her as in that moment. "It was as if, by showing her my cracks, she held me even tighter," he said. And that's the real magic of vulnerability. When you dare to show who you really are, you give the other person permission to do the same, and that creates an intimacy that goes far beyond the physical. Brené Brown, an expert on vulnerability, talks about the bravery of being vulnerable as one of the most powerful qualities in a relationship. She says that only when we dare to reveal what scares us, what makes us feel insecure, can we experience genuine connection. And mature women, with the wisdom that life has given them, know how to recognize and value a man who isn't afraid to be real, who doesn't hide behind a facade of invulnerability. In my personal experience, I've seen how vulnerability transformed relationships. I remember my father, a man who, for many years, kept himself always strong, controlled, as if nothing could touch him. But there was a moment when he realized that this armor was distancing him from my mother. One afternoon, during a conversation I overheard by chance, he confessed to her that he was afraid of growing old, that he didn't know how to handle certain aspects of life he had always been in control of. My mother, instead of being scared or disappointed, said something I'll never forget. "I love you more now that you let me see this, because now I see you. not the man who tries to be perfect. That moment changed their dynamic, and they became closer than ever. The act of showing vulnerability doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, trust, and most of all, courage. But when you do it, you open the door to a much more honest and deep relationship. And this doesn't just apply to the big fears or insecurities, but to everyday life as well. Sometimes, simply admitting that you don't have all the answers, that you also need support, or that you feel overwhelmed, is enough for her to feel that she sees you, that she understands you on a deeper level. One exercise I suggest is starting with small openings. If there's something that's worrying you, something you haven't shared with her, because you think it might make you seem weak, try talking about it. You don't have to do it all at once, but let her see you for who you really are, with your fears and doubts. You'll be surprised by her response. What may seem like a weakness to you will appear to her as emotional strength, because the act of being vulnerable takes a kind of courage that few people possess. In the end, what seduces a mature woman the most isn't perfection, but authenticity. Being able to say "I don't know" or "I feel unsure" is what truly builds a bond of trust. Because when both of you see each other in your vulnerability, without judgment or expectations, that's when true intimacy arises, the kind that lasts over time. So, dear, the next time you feel the need to hide what you're feeling out of fear of seeming less, remember that the most valuable thing you can offer your partner is your true self. Showing her who you really are, without masks or pretenses, is the most intimate and powerful gesture you can make, and I assure you, she will value it more than you could ever imagine. Number 5, the game of curiosity. My grandmother used to always say, "True love never stops asking questions." I didn't fully understand what she meant until I grew older, until relationships became more than just fleeting encounters. And I realized that to keep that spark alive, there's something essential that should never fade: curiosity. And I'm not talking about the curiosity you feel in the beginning, when everything is new and exciting. I'm talking about the curiosity that comes after years together, when you think you know the person beside you, but then you realize there are layers, facets, you've yet to uncover. Let me tell you something personal. After a long time in a relationship, we went through those phases where, I'll admit, I thought I knew everything about him. I knew his routines, his tastes, his quirks. But one day, over dinner, I started asking him questions I'd never dared to ask before. Questions that went beyond the everyday, beyond what we always talked about. It was like rediscovering someone I thought I already knew. And the best part was that he, surprised at first, joined in the game. That night we talked for hours, as if it were our first date, but with the depth and trust that the years had given us. It was then that I understood the game of curiosity should never end. Mature women, like me, know that the most valuable thing isn't just feeling loved, but feeling discovered, admired, as if every day could be an opportunity for the other to see something new in us. And that desire doesn't fade with the years. On the contrary, it grows stronger. Because, over time, we learn that we are a collection of experiences, emotions, and stories that continue to shape us. A good friend of mine, who had been married for over 20 years, told me how his relationship completely changed when he made a conscious decision to rediscover his wife. It wasn't easy at first because he thought he already knew everything about her. But one day, inspired by a book he was reading, he started asking her questions he had never asked before. Simple but deep questions. What makes you feel alive today? Or, if you could do anything without fear, what would it be? Questions that don't have an immediate answer, but open doors to conversations that often get closed off by routine. There's something magical about curiosity. When you dare to ask, you realize there's always more to discover, and that, dear one, is what keeps a relationship vibrant, alive, because people change, evolve. What made her laugh or dream 10 years ago may not be the same today. Rediscovering your partner day after day is a way of reminding her that she's still a fascinating mystery, that you'll never stop wanting to know her. I also lean on the psychology of novelty. which shows that couples who continue to explore each other, who keep surprising one another, tend to have longer, more satisfying relationships. And we're not talking about grand surprises or drastic gestures, but about small moments of discovery. Maybe it's a deep conversation after dinner, or a walk where you stop to really listen to her talk about something she's never mentioned before. I invite you to try a small exercise. One evening, instead of watching TV or falling into your usual routines, sit down with your partner and ask her an unexpected question. Something that helps you discover something new about her. It could be a deep question or even a light but revealing one. What dream have you yet to fulfill? Or, what's a happy childhood memory you've never told me about? You'll see how the conversation takes a different turn, how a door opens that might have been closed by habit. And in that moment, both of you will feel like you're starting something new, a shared exploration that can lead you to rediscover each other in a much deeper way. The game of curiosity has no age. It's a journey that never ends, as long as we're willing to keep asking questions, to keep seeking what we haven't yet seen. Because believe me, even after years, there's always something more. There's always a new story, a new smile, a new emotion to discover. You just have to be willing to look. At the end of the day, what we all truly seek is a deep, honest, and lasting connection. We want to be seen, heard, and valued, not for what we show on the surface, but for who we are at the most intimate level. The fantasies, the desires of mature women aren't complicated. In fact, they are simple but deeply meaningful. They long for presence, patience, curiosity, and above all, authenticity. What seduces them the most isn't empty promises or the illusion of perfection, but a man's ability to be truly present, to show vulnerability, and to pay attention to the details that may seem small, but are, in reality, everything. Every gesture matters, every look, every word spoken with sincerity. As we walk together on this path of self-discovery and fuller relationships, I want to remind you that it's not about changing radically overnight. It's about making small adjustments, paying attention, being more mindful. Because those small changes within yourself are what ultimately reflect in the quality of your relationships and the personal fulfillment you experience. My name is Celia, and I want this to be a place where you can find wisdom and reflect on important topics without fear or shame, but always with respect. Here, we talk not just about intimacy, but about how to improve the quality of our lives in every aspect. Because what we cultivate within ourselves reflects in our relationships and everything we do. If this is your first time on the channel, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming topics we'll be covering. And if you've made it this far, I congratulate you, because it means you take your personal growth seriously. I'd love to know who's committed to reaching the end, so comment the phrase, "I love psychology," and tell me which country you're listening from. It will be a pleasure to hear from you. And don't forget to share this video with someone who might need it. Sometimes, a simple reflection can make a big difference in someone's life. See you in the next video, and remember, every small act of love and attention counts. Most men believe they know what a mature woman truly desires deep within. But today, I'm going to take you down a different path, one you may not have walked before. The truth is, what they long for often has little to do with what we do, and everything to do with how we're able to see them, understand them, and truly be present. It's not about grand gestures or impossible promises, but something far more powerful and subtle. Imagine for a moment that you could turn every day into an opportunity to rediscover the woman beside you, as if every gesture, every word, every glance built an invisible bridge between the two of you. This isn't some unattainable fantasy, it's real, and today I'm going to show you how you can make it happen. My name is Celia, and if this is your first time on my channel, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. What you're about to discover won't just surprise you, it will give you the tools to deeply improve your intimate and emotional life, Let's begin. Number 1, the desire to be seen. When my friend Elena turned 50, she confessed something to me that she had never put into words, but had always felt. Her husband, whom she loved deeply, had stopped seeing her. Not in the superficial sense of not noticing her when she changed clothes or got ready to go out. No, it was something deeper. "Celia," she said to me one afternoon over coffee, "it's not that he doesn't see me physically. It's that I feel like he no longer sees me, the woman I am now." Her words made me think about how, over time, many men, without meaning to, stop paying attention to what truly matters, being fully present. And this, though it may seem incredible, is the most common fantasy of mature women. What Elena was describing wasn't a whim or an impossible desire. It's something all women, at some point in their lives, seek. To be seen and valued, not for who they were years ago, but for who they are in this moment. How many times have you heard the saying, "Love is in the details"? I would add something else. True love is in the eyes that know how to see beyond the obvious. For many mature women, the most powerful fantasy isn't about a romantic getaway or grand movie-like gestures. What they really want is for you to look at them and see the person they are now, with their wisdom, their scars, their changes, and their dreams. Elena wasn't looking for her husband to shower her with gifts or dedicate endless love speeches. What she wanted, what many women desire, is that subtle connection that happens when a man is fully present. When he takes the time to notice the small changes in her face, her mood, the way she smiles, or even the way she stays silent. Because silence also speaks volumes when you know how to listen. I remember reading a study a few years ago that confirmed something similar. Emotional validation is one of the most important pillars in a strong relationship. It's not about empty compliments or forced praise, but about feeling that, even in the most everyday moments, the other person is attentive, truly interested. And that, dear ones, is what Elena longed for. For her husband to look at her with fresh eyes, as if he discovered something new in her every day. Because no matter how many years go by, no matter how wrinkles mark the face or the body changes, women never stop evolving. The power of being fully present is immense. It's not about being physically in the same space, but about being emotionally available. Small gestures like maintaining eye contact during a conversation, or remembering something she mentioned weeks ago, are what build invisible yet unbreakable bridges in a relationship. I recall that once, my great-aunt Clara told her husband, after more than 30 years of marriage, "It's not that you don't love me, it's that you've stopped seeing me." He looked at her, surprised, not understanding what she meant. She, with the calm wisdom she always had, explained that love isn't static. If you don't nurture it, if you don't pay attention, it slowly fades away. Not because it doesn't exist, but because we let it die through neglect. Elena learned this lesson, and her story made me reflect on how small gestures can make a big difference. Because in the end, the true fantasy of many women isn't to be won over time and again, but to be seen, truly seen, every day, as if it were the first time. And that, believe me, is something that can't be bought or faked. It's a skill that's cultivated with intention, with dedication, and above all, with love. Now I ask you, when was the last time you truly saw your partner? The last time you took the time to observe her, to listen to her silences and her words, to notice those small changes in her way of being? It may be that what she desires most isn't what you think, but something much more subtle, something that's always been right in front of you, waiting to be discovered. And I assure you, once you learn to do this, once you become the man who knows how to truly see, you'll be much closer to creating that deep connection that she, deep down, longs for. Number 2, the seduction of small gestures. The power of small gestures is something many men underestimate. They believe that grand actions, expensive gifts, or extravagant displays are the key to keeping the connection alive. But the truth, dear one, is that the deepest seduction, the kind that truly transforms a relationship, lies in the simplest details, those that over time leave a much bigger mark than you could ever imagine. Let me tell you a story that always makes me reflect on this. My Aunt Ines, a woman who lived with a quiet elegance, used to say something to me that I've never forgotten. Love is slow cooked, Celia, like a good stew. It's not in a rush, but it needs constant attention. Throughout her life, Ines had a relationship of over 40 years with her husband, Emilio. What was remarkable is that, despite all the time they'd been together, she always said she felt courted, as if Emilio had never stopped wooing her. Not with grand gestures or flowery words, but with small, consistent and thoughtful details that made each day feel special. I remember one occasion, after a family dinner, when I asked Ines what her secret was. She smiled with that wisdom that only years can bring, and shared a story with me. One day, I was feeling particularly tired. Emilio saw me from the doorway, didn't say anything, but went to the kitchen, made my favorite tea, and left it on the table next to me. Nothing more was needed. That gesture, that small sign of attention, reminded me how much he loved me, without him having to say a single word. And there's the real magic. Small gestures carry immense power, because they speak a silent but deeply meaningful language. It's as if they say, I know you, I care for you, I see you. Sometimes, those small acts are more powerful than 1,000 words. Psychology backs this up. A study I recently read talked about the importance of positive reinforcement in relationships. Daily small gestures like a kiss before leaving the house, or an unexpected text in the middle of the day, act like little doses of affection that, over time, build a sense of security and connection. Because, in the end, what truly makes a woman feel loved is knowing that she is present in your mind, that her needs, no matter how small they may seem, are important to you. And this, dear one, isn't complicated. It doesn't require elaborate preparations or spectacular surprises. In fact, it's the opposite. What many mature women desire is consistency, the certainty that each day there is something that reminds them they are still valued and appreciated. A simple cup of coffee made just the way she likes it in the morning. A genuine, "How are you feeling today?" when she least expects it, or even remembering a conversation from weeks ago and bringing it up to show her that you were paying attention. There's something in simplicity that we often forget. Sometimes we're so eager to impress that we get lost in complexity, when what truly connects is right in front of us. A clear example is something I experienced with another friend, Carmen. She told me how her husband, after a long day at work, would always leave a note on her pillow. Sometimes it was a love phrase, other times just a simple, "Thank you for everything you do." Carmen didn't need anything more. That small daily detail made her feel valued in a way that no expensive gift could. It's like, with those notes, he's telling me that I'm important to him, even in the middle of routine, she said. And there's the magic of small gestures, in their consistency, in their ability to convey love without making noise, but leaving a mark. Now I invite you to think about those small details in your relationship. When was the last time you surprised your partner with a simple but meaningful gesture? Maybe a flower you picked along the way, an unexpected hug in the middle of her day, or simply listening attentively when she talks about something that's bothering her. Because at the end of the day, what she seeks isn't grand promises, but small gestures that remind her she's still important to you. And remember, there's no need to overcomplicate things. Sometimes the simplest gesture can be the most powerful. Number 3, patience and complicity. The rhythm of intimacy is an art few master, but it can completely change how a relationship is experienced and felt. Over the years, I've learned that mature women aren't seeking urgency or overwhelming intensity. What they truly value is complicity and patience, the ability to enjoy the moment, to extend pleasure without feeling that there's a fixed goal to reach. One afternoon, while sharing a glass of wine with my friend Lucia, she confessed something that deeply resonated with me. "Celia, what I love most about being with him is that he's never in a hurry. It always feels like we have all the time in the world." Lucia had found not just a lover in her partner, but a confidant. Someone who understood that intimacy isn't a race toward a climax but a slow dance where both savor each step. And here's the thing, dear, when it comes to intimacy, rhythm is everything. Women who've lived more, who've explored their own bodies and emotions, know that true pleasure lies in the waiting, in the anticipation, in those moments when the connection builds slowly without the need to rush. Lucia understood this perfectly. She had found someone who knew how to listen to her body, who didn't try to impose a fast pace, but responded with patience and curiosity to her cues. Carl Jung, in his study of human relationships, mentioned something very interesting: synchronicity. This idea that when two people are truly connected, there's a natural flow between them. In intimacy, this is even more evident. It's not about who takes the lead or who sets the pace, but about how both adapt to each other, how they let themselves be guided by the sensations that arise in the moment. A mature woman's body speaks subtly, and those who know how to listen to these signals can create a deeper, more intense connection without forcing anything. Let me share a small story. A few years ago, a good friend confided in me that after several failed relationships, he had learned something fundamental: patience. He told me that in the beginning, he would rush, thinking that what was expected of him was to perform quickly, to reach that happy ending as soon as possible. But with time and experience, he realized that what truly made the difference was the time spent before getting there. When I learned to slow down, everything changed, he told me. Not just for her, but for me too. We enjoyed more, we connected better. And intimacy, like fine wine, gets better when savored without haste. Mature women especially appreciate that pause, that ability to enjoy the journey without being obsessed with the destination.